This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Here we go! Kiss me like a love song. So that mama call me. Tengo sus noches y su pasión.
You're listening to the Emerald Flow Show on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.
Welcome to episode 16 of the Emerald Flow Show. We are a podcast on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. You can follow us at Emerald Flow Show on Twitter, and if you subscribe to Apple Podcasts, please leave us a 5-star review. And if you're so generous, you can go to voicesofwrestling.com/donate to donate to the show. My name is Gerard DeTroyo, and I'm here with Paul Vosch. Paul, how are you doing today?
Oh yeah, doing pretty fine. Getting through the second half of summer now, so looking forward to my vacation that is coming up soon.
Did you just have a heat wave over there?
Yeah, it was really bad. We had like up to 38 degrees Celsius here.
We had up to near 40 yesterday and Sunday, but today it was only 24 degrees, which was incredible.
Yeah, it's nice when it's that. It's like if it's like mid-20s to like higher 20s, that's still okay. But once you get like above 30, it just starts to become unbearable.
Absolutely. I've never been so happy just to even like last week, there were days when it was like 28, and I was never been so happy for it to be like 28 degrees.
I mean, I know Canada in general is a bit colder, but it's still in North America, so I assume you have AC in your house.
Yes.
Yeah, because we don't. So
Right.
38 degrees here with no AC is a bit different.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So speaking, I think, of things that are hot, I think the tournament season in Japan is heating up, actually. We have the first show of the Royal Road tournament in All Japan occurred, and it was, I would say, a pretty darn good show. Paul, what were your thoughts overall on the show?
Yeah, I would definitely say this was really good. I would probably say this was either the best or one of the best Royal Road shows that we've gotten. Because I would say generally the Royal Road, like, it's a solid enough tournament, but we rarely get something, like, generally the matches are in like the 3-star range, I would say. But on this show we had 2 matches that like got above that, and like even the matches that might not have been as good in terms of like match quality felt important for different reasons. So to me this was like a really, really good show, especially by Royal Road standards.
Yep, definitely. And so we'll just have a couple of notes before we start the show. I think very relevant to All Japan is, first of all, I think this just happened like a day or two after we recorded our last episode, and it was announced that Ryoma Tsukamoto, who injured himself again in training because he had torn his ACL, I think in last November, he announced that he was leaving All Japan, and it made it sound like he might come back to wrestling at some point, but it sounds like he's going to be out for quite a bit longer with his re-injured knee. This sort of has shades of Tegan Knox, I think, in some ways, like injuring yourself as soon as you're about to like come back from injury. I don't get the vibe that he left on bad terms or anything like that. It was just like, well, you know, why stick around if I'm going to be useless for another 6 to 9 months or maybe even longer?
Yeah, it's actually the vibes that I got from this. Actually, I think you can compare it to someone that we have actually recently seen in All Japan, and that's OJ Shiba, when he left Dragon Gate because he was injured all the time, but still wanted to continue wrestling whenever he was actually healthy again. So I think this might be a similar situation. I'm just wondering where he can actually get bookings once he's healthy again, though.
Well, I'm sure he can. Well, I mean, he came from Animal Hand Maguchi Gym, so I'm sure he can network and at least get on some indies or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, in that case, yeah, he can definitely probably get some bookings after he's healthy again. But how long that will take, who knows, given that he has had 2 major injuries in like a very short time.
I don't think it's a huge loss, but I did like his little, like, I mean, he was basically like an Ishii, like a short and stout guy, threw a really good drop kick, and I thought there was really good, like, you know, I thought he was going to be like a mid-carder for life, but I thought there was like a sort of place for him to be like a sort of a core, like workhorse in the mid-card that could sort of like be its sort of heart and soul type thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I agree. He had potential. How much potential? It's just incredibly hard to say because we just haven't seen that much of him. But, I mean, given that he has had these major injuries and still wants to continue wrestling, definitely shows that he has the passion for wrestling. So that definitely is a good sign for for how good he could be going forward. But again, like, injuries could definitely be a major limiting factor for him going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And in some other, I guess I would call it negative news, Paul, did you see Jake Lee's comments in this interview he did?
I mean, sometimes I question who is actually doing more work to geekify Jake, if it is actually All Japan or if it is actually Jake himself. Because it might actually be Jake himself.
Yeah, so basically he was like, oh, feel humiliated that I didn't get selected for the G1 because Tanahashi said, you know, you should come to New Japan and stuff like that. And just so makes him just look so stupid.
See, and people said I was overreacting when I said they can't make this guy Triple Crown champion again. But, like, how could you make someone like this Triple Crown champion? How can you make someone that is sad that he didn't get into the tournament of another promotion the top champion of your promotion? Like, sorry, you just can't. I'm not saying you need to, like, push him to, like, ultimate, like, lower card status or whatever, but, like, you can't build your promotion around a guy like this. Like, I think we just have to accept this fact now.
Yeah, I think so too. Although I'm not convinced that the company necessarily sees it that way. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, they're still kind of like, I'm still afraid that they might make him in the Budokan main event. But at this point, I think we've figured it out who's going to be the Budokan main event.
Yeah. So the show was on August 8th at Korakuen Hall. They drew 610 fans. Now, that's a little down from what they've been doing recently, but I went back and looked at some of the non-finals shows in Korakuen Hall because they ran 3 Korakuen Hall shows over the entire course of the Champion Carnival, and they drew like 430 for like one and like 500 for the other. So I wouldn't call 610 that bad.
I would call it a bad number quite simply because they've drawn better numbers in Korakuen recently. Like, yeah, maybe earlier in the year they had some worse numbers than this, but just comparing to what they've drawn in recent months in Korakuen, this is a significant step down, like by almost 200 people.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. I can see it. I don't think it's a disaster though.
It's definitely if it's just a one-time blip, I don't think it's bad. But if that turns into like a continuous trend, then that's a worrying situation. But yeah, I think just as a one-off, it's not too worrying. But just so compared to what they've but that's what I mean. Like what they've drawn recently, like it's definitely a significant step down from that.
Now, this isn't the most scientific thing, but I checked the advanced sales for the final show on the 20th, and basically I go to like the Lawson website, and there's like the different sections, like ticket prices, and then there's like a green circle meaning plenty of tickets, a yellow triangle for like, you know, a few remaining, and then like red X for sold out in that section. And the show on the 20th is already like has more like red X's for like the premium seats and more yellow triangles for some of the other sections than this show already had. So I do expect that to draw well.
Yeah, I mean, it is still a final, so I think that one definitely has a decent chance of drawing a pretty good number.
So let's get into the show itself. I don't really have much to say except on the undercard, except for I thought it was, there was a Voodoo Murders versus Yuji Nagata and Evolution match that ended in another disqualification when Suwama got disqualified. And yeah, that was about the only sort of notable thing. And we would see more Suwama later. So the first match of the Royal Road Tournament.
I think maybe one quick thing I would say on that DQ is Suwama refused to hit Kyohevara with a chair. And I will just say that, not to spoil maybe later results, but like if Kento was a voodoo murderer, he definitely wouldn't have pulled back from that hit with the chair.
Do you think Suwama was questioning why is he so violent?
Maybe Suwama was questioning why he was so violent, because then he only hit the other referee. It was, I don't know, to me it was definitely a notable moment that he refused to hit Kyohei.
Yeah, I think we can get more into that later because I think this is all going somewhere maybe. So Jake Lee defeated Ren Ayabe in 11 minutes and 54 seconds with the D4C. I like this match. It wasn't as good as the next two matches, but I thought it was a really, really good showing from Ayabe. This was his biggest singles match that he's had to date in All Japan, and I thought he stepped up to the plate really well. There was a great spot where he did like a drop kick off of the ring apron to the Jake on the floor. And I have to give a shout out to Captain Lou at Captain Lou Japan on Twitter, who coined the term Ayabe levers.
As in, you believe in Ayabe, or you're going to leave because of him?
No, you believe in Ayabe. Ayabe believers.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah. What I actually really liked about this match is how much they played up how tall he is. Because Jake Lee normally does, I think I remember him doing that spot with Irie in the Champion Carnival, where he basically for the lockup just raised his arm and dared Irie to get up to his level. And this time around, Ayabe was actually able to do that with Jake. And again, Jake is really tall. Jake is like 193 centimeters, I think. And I think it's very rare for him to not be the taller guy in the match. So I think that was a really nice dynamic that really showed off how tall Ayabe actually is.
Yeah, for sure. Although, I didn't expect him to win or anything.
No, absolutely not.
I think Ayabe performed well enough, and I think he's going to be a full-timer one way or the other, whether he signs a contract or not, I think, going forward.
I think maybe one thing for him, though, is that he still needs to get better at emoting in the ring, and that's something that I'm a little afraid of, because it's something that we have been saying, or we've been clamoring for Jake to do for years, and it's something that Ayabe right now also seems to be not very good at, but again, there's obviously, he's still really early in his career, and he still has a lot of time to learn that, but just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that's the weakest part of his game so far. And so the next match in the first round was Tokuya Nomura defeated Atsuki Aoyagi in 11 minutes and 52 seconds with the Dragon Suplex hold. This was pretty awesome. It was basically you would think, Aoyagi flew around and then Nomura used his strikes and tried to ground him. And there were some great exchanges. Aoyagi got a lot. He certainly didn't feel like he was getting squashed. I mean, Nomura is technically a heavyweight, but he's really junior size. So it didn't look out of place or anything for him to do that. But just a great showing from Aoyagi, I thought.
Yeah, no, this was a really, really good match. And also the size of Nomura. That's where it gets kind of confusing, right? With the difference between heavyweights and juniors in All Japan. Because Takuya Nomura is a heavyweight, but then his tag team partner is a junior. At least in All Japan. So, yeah, it's kind of confusing at times. But yeah, this was a really, really good match, and that's also what I thought, like, when I realized, like, oh, maybe actually the working standard of this tournament is actually a bit higher this year. Because I don't think we've really seen matches like these in previous Royal Road tournaments.
Certainly not in the first round.
Yeah, especially not in the first round, yeah. And it definitely has shown, like, yet again, like, the growth of Atsuki Aoyagi, that he was just, like, able to keep up with someone like Nomura here. And Nomura was also willing to give him quite a bit, and I think they matched up really well, where Aoyagi was just flying around the ring, and then Nomura was just beating the shit out of him. Like, I think I really liked that spear. I think probably my favorite spot of the whole match was when Nomura hit a spear on Aoyagi and sent him to the outside into the guardrail. Like, that looked really nasty.
Yes, definitely. And then what I thought was the best match on the show, in another round one matchup, Nomura defeated Yuma Aoyagi in 15:50 with his new move, the Infinity. I love this. You could feel the hate. There's some pretty stiff strikes in here. Some Aoyagi took a crazy bump off the apron as well from his spear from Nomura. There's a ton of kickouts. And then, so, Nomura had to, like, go to the, like, Aoyagi kicked out of the maximum, so Nomura had to go to the well and come up with a new finisher, which sort of looks like a burning hammer, basically, I guess. Is that what you thought it mostly looked like?
Kinda, not quite.
But but he throws him more forward, but it's not like Bianca Belair's KOD where the person lands, like, flat on their, like, front.
Yeah.
So some sort of, like, hybrid between those two moves, I thought. But, like, yeah, I would say definitely check out this match if you like any of these guys, and I think it's kind of more proof that they've got plans for Nomura going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. What I was actually thinking about when I mentioned it earlier, that the standard of this tournament seems to be a bit higher, because I was actually on this one, I was thinking about, is this the best Royal Road tournament ever? Or is this the best Royal Road tournament match ever? At least so far. Because I was trying to think what other matches we've gotten in this tournament that have been as good as this one. Like, there's probably something I'm forgetting there, some final match with Kento.
The Jake Lee versus Kento in 2019?
Yeah, that one is probably, like, really far up there as well. But I think this one can definitely match up with that as well. Like, this was just excellent stuff. As you said, you could really feel the heat between the two. That's always something that's really important to me, that, like, if there's, like, noticeable emotion in a match, and I think that was here as well. It also still didn't feel like this was, like, the finish of the feud either. Like, they still felt like they can keep going from here.
Definitely. And Paul, Yuma being that blonde, yay or nay?
I think he can make it work. I think it's definitely noticeable that he changed his hair. And maybe that's something that we're going to talk about later. Maybe what he's going to do going forward or coming out of this tournament. But I think generally can improve. Like, it is obviously, like, a change now. So, like, it's weird at first, but I think it's something that we can probably get used to relatively quickly.
Right, yeah. I think it means something coming up, which is why I brought it up.
Yeah.
And then, in a not-so-great match, the weakest tournament match on the show, although there was an incredible performance in it, Kento Miyahara defeated Taru in 15 minutes and 5 seconds with the shutdown German suplex hold, which I have to say I didn't expect Taru to take.
No,
I thought Kento would just finish him off with a blackout knee. I mean, okay, so Taru, the only wrestling moves he did is he did some kicks, and he did a Fire Thunder driver. They brawled around ringside, leading to the legendary moment that basically, well, I mean, viral is a strong word, but it got a lot of attention, where there was this little kid in the front row of the orange seats in Korakuen Hall, and Taru sees him, and he sees that the kid doesn't like him, that he's beating up Miyahara on the outside. So he drags Kento over and then starts choking Kento right in front of this kid, and this kid is screaming. His dad there, I think, is sort of laughing at all of this, because it's like, this is the sort of thing you expect when you take your kids to a wrestling show, right?
Yeah, no. I thought this was a really cool spot. And also kudos to both men from, like, fully capitalizing on it. I guess they're both kind of starved for hearing an actual crowd reaction. So when it's just a child crying in like a Korakuen that is not allowed to make like verbal noise. Otherwise, I think it's very noticeable. And I mean, it was also right in the front row too. So
Yeah.
and I mean, they kind of went back to it later too, or rather, Kento went back to it. Like that child suffered on that day.
I hope they gave him a T-shirt after the show, or got to get a picture with Kento after the show ended.
Yeah, I really hope actually that the kid has some talent for wrestling, and is actually just like the person that just like retires Kento Miyahara in like 20 years or so. It's just like, you made me cry all 20 years ago in Korakuen, and now I'm gonna end your career.
So that would be incredible long-term booking. So basically what happened after the match is that like Kento went over to the kid, like being like, oh, hey, like, you know, everything's okay. I won type thing. And then he brings Rising Hayato over, and he
Talk about people suffering.
You know, takes the shirt off of tells Hayato to give him the shirt off his back. He's pretending like he's going to give the kid the shirt, but he pulls it out of the kid, and then Kento puts the shirt on. He does this a couple of times and then just goes to the back.
Such
Just
a dick
like, who's
move.
the real? Okay, so who's the real heel here, really?
I mean, it's not Savama, because he didn't hit the referee.
So we got to talk about the post-match angle that actually happened before Kento taunting this child. Kento wins, does not have to join Voodoo Murders. Suwama comes over still and offers to shake his hand. And then Kento like waits on it and sort of teases like he is. And then Hayato gets in the ring and being like, no, Kento, don't do it. And then Kento throws Hayato out of the ring, which at this point I'm freaking out because I'm like, oh my God, we just got like this. They still did the stupidest thing they could have done. And then, they hold it for a couple of seconds. So you think Kento's turning, and then Kento kicks, Suwama in the head, and Suwama gets chased out of the ring, and Kento's yelling at them, calling them idiots and stuff like that. And so, Kento doesn't join. And then the thing with the kid and Kento again happens after that. It was quite the finish to the show, I have to say.
Yeah, and again, I think you brought this up before, like, where you're wondering, is this going to lead to a Kento heel turn at some point down the line? And I beforehand I was like, probably not, because they're probably going to wait a bit longer until they build someone. But now I'm like not so sure. And to be honest, I wouldn't have an issue with a Kento heel turn by himself. I would have an issue if Kento is like just a member of Voodoo Murderers under Suwama, because that goes against the entire, because, okay, here's the thing. So like the basis of Kento Miyahara's character, pretty much the entire time since he's become the ace of all Japan, is, yes, he's technically a face, but he's also a douchebag. He's also a self-absorbed douchebag, which is why he always comes out first, which is why everyone keeps turning on him all the goddamn time, because he's the Sun King, and he will tolerate no stars next to him. Like, he is the king of everyone. So if he turns heel based off of that and forms his own faction, that's different than him just becoming Suwama's underling.
Right, and this is why I've seen people compare Kento to Sting, because everyone turns on him, but it's not the same.
No.
Because Sting was just naive.
No, he's Hogan. He is Hulk Hogan. It's basically everyone that turns on Kento Miyahara is perfectly justified in turning on Kento Miyahara. Just like everyone turning on Hulk Hogan was perfectly justified in turning on Hulk Hogan.
So I came up with this idea, Paul. What do you think of this? Kento turns on that Korakuen Hall show the day after Budokan.
With the title. Or he has the title and he turns. Yeah. They haven't announced anything for that. Yeah, obviously they haven't announced anything for that show yet.
Well, they've announced some of the people who will be on that show, which we're about to get to in a second.
Yeah, I think we'll get a good idea if that's going to happen when we actually know what match he's going to be in on that show.
So my only concern about turning Kento, and I'm not really that big of a fan of it, is that I don't think so Jake's still technically a heel and he's a geek. Nomura's a heel. And we don't, I don't know what they have him on him. Is Yuma ready to be the top babyface?
It definitely feels early to pull the trigger on him, especially if there's no other reasonably large babyface. Because as you said, everyone else is a heel that is kind of upper guy in the promotion, really. 'Cause I'm
And it
trying
would
to
essentially
think.
be the Aoyagi brothers as the main faces of the promotion. I
Yeah,
would
it really
assume.
is. Like, who would be like the second biggest face after Yuma Iga? Yeah, and it probably would be Atsuki Aoyagi. I mean, the downside of that is as well, like, if you turn Kento heel, then everyone else is also heel. Like, who do you have challenge for the belt? Or do you then immediately have him lose the belt to Yuma? But again, that doesn't make sense if you just did the big heel turn with him.
Oh, I think Kento should lose the Triple Crown to Yuma after this. Okay, so like we're all convinced. We should preface this. We're all convinced that Kento's winning this tournament now. It's not going to be Nagata.
Yes, no. It's. I think it's very obvious at this point that he's winning the tournament. Like that, you also get that when you like look at all of the like setup matches and everything. Like it's like the whole story is built around Suwama and Kento. Like it doesn't make sense for anyone else to win this tournament.
As soon as they did that angle in Osaka last month that set up like the Taru match, I was convinced that Kento was winning the tournament.
Yeah, the only doubt I had about it is like, okay, is this maybe the dumbest promotion in the world, and are they just gonna force Kento to join Voodoo Murderers? But like literally the moment the hand hits the mat to count 3, and the main event was over, I was like, okay, so Kento's in the main event of Budokan, like he's winning this tournament.
Yeah, I was pretty convinced that Taru was not going to kick out of that shutdown German suplex, not because they wouldn't book that, but because he physically couldn't.
No, that too. I was like, maybe they're gonna pull out the ref or something, but like I was like, yeah, literally from the moment he went up for the shutdown and went down, like I was like, yeah, okay, Kento's going to Budokan.
Well, especially because the way they did it, because Suwama was sitting at a table, like ringside, and then Kono got hit with the powder.
Yeah.
So there was no one to say do any of that bullshit. And there was actually a shocking. Like there was interference, like they beat up Kento a bit at the beginning, and then there was some failed interference. But there wasn't nearly as much interference in that match that I thought there would be.
No, there really wasn't. Like I thought it was noticeable too. I mean, maybe they just didn't want to like muddy up a main event of Korakuen, I guess maybe. But then again, they did that in a Triple Crown match. So yeah, it definitely was interesting, and like you said, like it wasn't a good match, but I was definitely emotionally invested in a match, I will say.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so we had a number of big announcements, and I would call them big announcements on the show for both Budokan on the 18th of September, and then the Korakuen Hall show we were talking about on the 19th. So Joe Doring's coming back, Paul. The eager, that's something that everyone's been eager for, and that's great. Impact superstar. But Paul, then they announced Christopher Daniels is coming to work those shows. The forbidden door to the Royal Road has been opened.
Yeah. I know, I saw some. I mean, we're actually going to do like a question section later.
Yeah.
But maybe we can just preempt one of the questions for here.
We'll get to it. Because I think we'll then, because we'll get bogged down on that one.
Okay, yeah.
I could go on. I've got a lot of thoughts about that.
Okay. So then, I mean, I'm just going to talk about in general what I think about, like, Chris Daniels on, like, All Japan. Like, I mean, he can still go. Like, he has slowed down now, finally, after, like, 30 plus years or so of just being an excellent wrestler. But I think he can still go to a decent degree, so I think he's definitely going to be a fun addition to the card. And Doring as well, I think, like he is a part of the history of All Japan, so I think it's nice to see him come back for the big anniversary show.
Oh, absolutely. I'm really happy that he's back for that show.
Yeah, do you think though that he is going to, is this a one-off for him, or do you think he's going to be coming back like a little bit more regularly going forward?
I hope so, but I don't expect it.
Yeah, I'm also not positive on it because he just doesn't seem like a guy that wants to take that regular flight to Japan anymore.
Not under these conditions either.
Yeah, that too.
And he's slowed down too, right? Like, I liked his match against Josh Alexander, but he still wasn't Joe Doring of a few years ago.
No. He's definitely not like 2015 Joe Doring or like 2018 Joe Doring.
Now, Paul, he hasn't been announced to the show, but do they put Zeus on the other side of Doring in whatever match he's in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fairly certain Zeus is going to be on there. It would be very weird if Zeus wasn't on the show, to be honest.
So we have a bunch of other details. The Saito brothers are returning from their excursion to America and Europe. So Ideally, if I had my choice, I would just have him squash Toshizo and Minoru and win those All Asia tag titles.
I was literally just about to say the exact same thing. So yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. Because again, with those two, you can't go slow because they are already in the they're already in the second half of their 30s. Like they're 36. Are they still 36 or are they 37 now?
No, they're 36. Yeah.
Okay, so they're still 36.
Yeah.
But again, you have to do something with them
30,
now.
No, wait. I think their birthdays are December 86. So they're turning 36 or something like that.
Okay. But regardless, you have to do something with them now. So you just have to pull the trigger with them, have them win the All Asia tag titles in a really dominant fashion, see if they can go from there, if they can get reactions, if they can draw, if they get better in the ring. And if they don't, then, I don't know, you can just quickly end it as well, probably. But if you have something with them here, you have to try with them now.
Yeah, for sure. And then super rookie, I guess, Suwama's large son, Yuma Anzai, will be debuting. And I have to say, he looks like he's got that look of a future star. Yeah. That might be a bit, but he looks like the kind of guy that they would push as a top guy.
Yeah, and just how much of a big deal they've made out of signing him as well, and how much Suwama has been gushing about him too. Whenever he's asked about him, I think that he's definitely going to get all of the chances he needs to succeed in this company.
And Yuji Nagata, Tiger Mask, and Minoru Suzuki have been announced for both shows, which I think was, at least Nagata and Tiger Mask I expected. Yeah.
Minoru Suzuki, I actually kind of half expected to be on the show as well, after he was on the Giant Baba Memorial show.
Yeah, and then he was in the main event of that the show that had the six-man tournament.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised that he's at the show. So and definitely a nice addition as well. As well with Tiger Mask. I mean, that's not on the Budokan, but another match that was announced was Tiger Mask and Kento versus Suwama and Black Tiger, and that actually was another spoiler for me for a match for Budokan, unfortunately. So it's not. I think at this point we can say it's not going to be. They announced that
at the beginning of the show, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
Or before the tournament matches, which was so ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean,
New Japan would have never done that.
No, but I mean, it didn't just spoil the outcome of the Kento match. It also spoiled kind of the outcome. I mean, we know that Omori wasn't going to win, but unfortunately, I think now that means that Atsuki is not going to be in a junior title match at Budokan. I think it's going to be Tiger Mask versus Black Tiger.
You know what? I didn't think of that, but you're right, and that's so stupid.
Yeah, I know. I've gotten over it now because it's been a couple of days since I figured this out. But yeah, if this hits you fresh, it's no.
I didn't like Tiger Mask ending Sato's reign, and I hate this even more.
Yeah.
Now oh God Almighty.
I mean, we still don't know who this Black Tiger actually is.
I think there's a Black Tiger that's been, I can't remember his name, but he teams with Takaiwa sometimes on the indies, and I think maybe in Ganbare a couple of times. I think that's who it is.
I mean, but is there also a chance that this is actually an actual All Japan guy under the mask?
It's possible. I don't know.
Because I think we'll probably be able to figure it out relatively quickly when we actually see this Black Tiger wrestle.
Yeah.
If it is actually the guy from the indies, or if it is actually just yet again, just a completely new guy under the mask, which I think that very heavily influences how I think about it. If it is just an actual All Japan guy under the mask, then I have a little less of an issue. If this is just literally a random guy from the indies that they bring in and have them in a junior title match at Budokan, I think that's kind of shit.
Yeah. So actually, we'll get to it in a second, but there's something on the next show that hasn't completely killed my hope of Atsuki versus Tiger Mask. So I was going to ask you, Paul, do you think there'll be more announcements coming on the 20th at the finals?
Yeah, absolutely. I would hype because then by that point you can kind of because they can't announce some of the matches yet because it would spoil the fact that people got eliminated from the tournament.
Right.
So you're still going to get announcements for whatever Yuma and Nomura are going to do. I would guess maybe they have another singles match, or maybe we're going to get another Atsuki and another Aoyagi's versus Real Blood match or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to say, the first match of the Budokan was announced. It's the 50th anniversary special match. Masanobu Fuchi, Atsushi Onita, and Shiro Koshinaka versus Yoshiaki Yatsu, Masao Inoue, and the Great Kojika. And this will be also refereed by Keiohei Wada.
I mean, look, it's an anniversary 6-man tag match.
Yeah,
like,
I know. It's funny.
It's just like get the old guys in there. Like it's okay.
Kojika is like almost Ric Flair level, like hard to watch though.
Yeah.
He's 80. He's actually 80.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And he got like COVID like at the start of the pandemic and still wrestles. It's just insane.
Yeah, I mean, if he can still go now, then I guess it's I don't know. Like I said, it's just a 6-man tag. Like I guess maybe he'll tag in once, and that's probably going to be it.
It's so funny that Masao Inoue is the worker of this match in terms of who can do the most. Oh, Koshinaka is actually in pretty decent shape too.
Yeah, no, but it's definitely a weird match. Actually, the person that I'm very curious about what they're gonna do at the Budokan is Jake. You think Jake is finally going to get that match with Tanahashi-senpai, who betrayed him so much?
Yeah, but he's going to have to lose that.
Yeah, I mean, of course he has to, but, like, it would just be funny if Tanahashi just, like, yet again, is just, like, I don't know who this guy even is, and then Jake is just in, like, a random, like, 6-man tag or something.
We'll see. And, I forgot to mention, so you think Jun Akiyama's showing up or no?
I don't know, he just feels like he's kind of, like, it doesn't even feel that he's just done with All Japan. It feels like he's kind of done with Noah too, because this works for, like, a related promotion and never ever shows up there. Like, he just seems like he has just completely moved on and just doesn't really want to think about his past anymore.
It would not surprise me if Akiyama might not have things to do with certain things going on in Noah. Because he was there at one point, like, it was him and Marufuji faced Kaito and Inamura at one point, right? That was a match.
Yeah, no, they did do that match once, yeah.
But nothing else, right?
No, he hasn't done anything else with Noah since then. I mean, maybe he's gonna repay the favor and team with Omori.
Yep.
I mean, I could see maybe him doing that, but nothing more than that. And that one's definitely going to be a one-off.
Right. So a couple other notes. So on the next show, it will be Tiger Mask versus Hokuto Omori for the PWF Junior title, and then Minoru and Toshizo versus Takao Omori and Ryo Inoue, which got canceled because Minoru had a fever, but that's been moved to August 14th. And then it's Toshizo versus Black Mensa Ray for the Gaora TV title on August 16th. And Izanagi is also out with COVID, I think until at least the 16th. So on the show that will probably air by the time most of you listen to this, we've got Shiji Chicago versus Cyrus. I think Cyrus is winning that.
Yeah, I think that was really noticeable on the undercard of this past show, where yet again Ishikawa was selling his ass off for Cyrus. So yeah, that convinced me even more that he's going to give him the win.
Shotaroshino versus Dan Tamara, which I think the result is obvious, but these guys had a really good match in December 2020 at Korakuen Hall that I really liked a lot, and Dan has, sort of developed as a wrestler more since then, so I'm actually sort of looking forward to this.
Yeah, I think this has the potential to be a really fun match.
Takao Omori versus Ryuki Honda. Now, here's the interesting thing. Honda pinned Omori in the 6-man tag at Korakuen Hall. Do you think that changes the result? Because I assumed it was Honda.
No, I still think Honda is winning because Honda is a champion. Mm-hmm. And Omori has never been someone that has been like coy about doing jobs.
Right. No, not at all.
So I think he would actually like want to use that opportunity to put over Honda.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then I think a big main event. Well, I don't know. They haven't announced the match order yet. Yoshitatsu versus Yuji Nagata. We have gone back to 2006 New Japan.
Yeah, evidently. I think the outcome of this one is also not really in doubt as well.
No, I actually think this could be pretty good because I think Yoshitatsu will show Nagata respect and want to work hard.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, again, that's with Yoshitatsu. It's like it's almost like a coin flip. Like you never know what you're actually going to get.
And then, as we said, got Tiger Mask versus Hokuto Omori for the junior title. Now, here's the thing: we've got Kento Miyahara, Rising Hayato, and OG Shiba versus Jake Lee, Yuma, and Atsuki. And here's what I was thinking was going to happen: Atsuki pins Shiba, or maybe even Hayato, and then he comes out after like the junior title match and challenges for the title.
I mean, again, I could see that happen, but I don't know. To me, the fact that they have this Kento and Tiger Mask versus Suwama and Black Tiger, and if they're bringing in a Black Tiger, like the only reason you have a Black Tiger is if you have a Tiger Mask, basically.
Right.
So that to me is like unless they don't really have time to squeeze in another junior title match really before Budokan. That's the other thing.
No. Well, on the 20th.
Maybe like that might be the only way I could see them do it. But again, to me, this is like.
Do you think New Japan gave them an actual number of? You must have this number of defenses before Tiger Mask can drop.
I mean, it definitely feels that way because they've never really done this many junior title matches in this short time.
No.
Like that's
they've done two back to back, but they've really gone three very close together, which they have not done.
Yeah, exactly. So that to me is kind of a tip off that New Japan was basically like, yeah, you can have him win the title, but he needs to have this many defenses.
Mm-hmm. Which also makes why bring out like an outsider Black Tiger, so you're not burning off one of your guys.
But then again, they've burned for a lot of their guys. Like that's the weird part as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so I don't. It just gets worse every development in this title reign.
Yeah.
Okay. So some final notes. I listened to Tajiri on Rene Dupree's podcast, so you didn't have to. It was
Thank you.
Very exciting. It was not a very exciting interview. Dupree's not a very dynamic interviewer, as you can assume. Tajiri's English is actually not bad, but like he didn't because they were talking about his book. He didn't want to like give any like actual stories from the book, trying to get people to buy the book instead. So Dupree would like get other stories that he would start telling, and then Tajiri would talk about it. I just thought some sort of funny and weird things was Tajiri called Super Crazy fat at one point.
I feel like that was more like that feels like I haven't heard it, but that just feels like more like a friendly rib.
But maybe he was mad that he took off to Noah, but we don't really know the story about that. I have a feeling that it was an agreement that Crazy would come in for a short run in All Japan and then go to Noah.
Yeah, because he just immediately went like to Noah afterwards.
Yeah. And I thought was sort of funny is he asks Dupree, he's like, who's training the young boys in Noah? Like he didn't know that. And it was Ogawa, Dupree said, and I think that we all assume that. Which I just thought was weird that he didn't know that. I don't know. I guess like it's not like some secret or anything. Maybe he would have known who's. I don't know. It just seems strange that he was unaware of. He probably knows who's training in the New Japan guys, right? It's Nagata and those guys. So I don't know. It's just weird to me like that. But also, what I thought was probably the most interesting tidbit, and this sort of ties into the question of who exactly is booking Noah, is that Dupree cryptically said, well, I might not ever be back to wrestle in Japan. And he said he's got bookings in Europe in October once the N1 will be over. So Dupree was a Nosawa guy that worked together in All Japan, that worked together in Wrestle 1. I could see if it really is Kendo Kashin booking Noah, him, not bothering to bring back Dupree.
Well, what I'm wondering about, because they recently booked two people that would point in the other direction, because they're actually bringing back Dragonbane and Alpha Wolf. So, right. And those two are also like full-on Nosawa guys. So what I'm actually wondering...
Well, they can also work at a different level than...
True, than Rene Dupree. But what I'm actually wondering is maybe they've split it. That maybe they've kind of separated responsibilities for the juniors and the heavies. Where Nosawa might be the one booking the juniors and Kashin is the one booking the heavies.
That I could believe that too. That also makes sense. Okay, we'll just touch on this real quick because it was only one match I watched on the show, and Paul, you haven't watched it. The 0-1 Fire Festival Finals from July 31st. I watched Daisuke Sakamoto defeat Yoshiki Nomura in 26 minutes with a wrist clutch German suplex. This is an incredible match. It might be my new match of the year. Just like they hit each other really hard, of course, and they dropped each other on their heads with suplexes, and they threw each other outside of the ring really hard, and it didn't feel like it was 26 minutes, and there was very little downtime. They were constantly just trying to kick the shit out of each other. Like, go out and watch this match is what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, I actually will watch this after we're done recording here because, we've been gushing over this match a lot.
And I think I got more angry after watching this match about something that we'll talk about in Noah. So we'll move on to Noah. So we didn't cover the July 21st or 22nd Korakuen shows. There wasn't really that much on those shows other than some more poor attendances, but I don't know what Noah can really expect at this point, drawing with this many people. I will just say I thought the Open the Triangle Gate match between Nosawa, Eita, and Kotaro Suzuki, they defeated Yamato, Dragon Kid, and Kajitora in 10 minutes and 18 seconds. It wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, well, it just happened to be kind of an okay match. I was also a little bit disappointed from this.
The main event of Sugiura Fujita and Kiyomiya defeating Shiozaki, Masato Tanaka, and Masa Kitamiya was pretty good. Although Go did get injured in this match, but thankfully he is back to wrestling. But you really should go and watch Daisuke Harada versus Seki Yoshioka from this show. Harada won, but it was really great.
Yeah, no, I mean these are probably. I mean, they're definitely close. They might, but they're definitely like two of the top 5 workers in the entire junior division in Noah, I would say. So I definitely went in with high expectations, and they actually met them.
Mm-hmm. And then the next day, it was just a bunch of, multi-man tags again.
Yeah.
Although I like the opener of Daiki Inaba defeating Kenya Okada in about 7 minutes and 49 seconds. And the main event of Keno, Funaki, and Nakajima versus Kaito, Kojima, and Mochizuki was another really good match. But, it was like a show with all multi-man tags. Perfectly fine. Paul, did you see the show on the 31st? Because I totally forgot and didn't watch it.
No, I didn't watch that one either. But what I will say about it is that the attendance for this one was really good, though.
Yes. So this was also like a quote-unquote show affiliated to Hiroshi Hase. I believe he was at the show.
Yeah. And
I know All Japan would also do these shows at Ishikawa Industrial Exhibition prior to the pandemic, and they would always draw quite well for even All Japan in 2019 doing 1,400 fans. And I wonder if this show had a sponsor, because I think those All Japan shows featuring Hase here also had a sponsor, so that's quite possible.
Yeah. No, but again, it's just, for me, it's just more fuel to my fire of my talking point of you need to get out of Tokyo and just go somewhere else because you can actually draw better. Because again, this show drew more people than the previous two Korakuen Hall shows combined.
Yes. Then we move on to August 5th. So I'll just point out what I thought was interesting. So Ogawa, Yuya Susumu, and Kai Fujimura defeated Nosawa, Eita, and Super Crazy when Fujimura pinned Nosawa after a failed belt attack, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely one of the first wins that Fujimura has gotten, I want to say, because I'm trying to think if he's gotten any other wins.
Well, maybe over Yasutaka Yano, maybe.
But it was definitely...
No, Yano would be a senior.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I'm trying to think, I don't think he's ever gotten a win before. So, and it's certainly an interesting way to get your first career win.
A very, that Nosawa booked that, obviously.
Yes.
Booking the juniors for sure.
Yeah.
Other matches on the show, I like Nakajima and Soya versus Green and Stallion Rogers. I thought that was a pretty fun match. Daisuke Harada, Ninja Mac, and Seki Yoshioka defeated Kotoge, Dante Leon, and Yohei. So we'll stop here just to say I can't believe they're bringing back Dante
Can't believe
Leon
this either.
in October.
So mad.
Out
of everyone you could book, this
he
is the guy
certainly
you
is
bring
not
back.
the worst wrestler I've ever seen, but there's better like flyers on the like U.S. Indies if that's what you want. He just sort of sticks out compared to everyone else. And really, in most matches, they have him on like the other side of Ninja Mac, and it's like him and Mac doing their sequences.
Like,
So,
this
you know,
just really feels like they're liking Max so much that they're willing to book his friend. Like, that's really what this feels like, because I don't really see another reason why you would bring this guy back.
yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe they like him. I don't know. Like, I just can't see it. Like, Nassau was weird. Like, you know, what can I say?
I mean, maybe he just sees a kindred spirit in Leon, I guess. I don't know, they kind of have a similar look.
Yeah, exactly, right? And then in a sort of fun, you know, special match, we had Kaito Kiyomiya, El Hijo del Santo, and Ultimo Dragon defeating Eno and Alejandro, defeating Keno, Tadasuke, Hajime Ohara, and Hiroki in it was only 7 minutes and 53 seconds long, with, of course, Santo going over by making Ohara tap to the camel clutch.
Yeah, I mean, what else? I mean, that's definitely, like, that was the only way this match could ever end. Like,
Yeah.
there's
it
no
was
way... Yeah, I mean, it was fine, but... it's definitely... What was more worrying for me was, like, the angles that they shot after the match where Keno was basically challenging Santo. And it's just, like, given recent happenings, and no, it's just, like, the jokes just write themselves, basically.
Well, if Nosawa is only booking the junior division, I don't think we have anything to worry about. But if he's not, then we have to worry.
Yeah, and I mean, like, again, I don't think anything will come out of this because we have the N1 coming up. Keno is not going to have a title defense before then, and he's not going to, like Santo isn't sticking around for that long. Like, he isn't
No.
sticking around, like, past the end, like, for, like, months, basically. Like, that's not
Santos
happening.
probably already left. And
Yes.
It's just like one more booking after the Dragon Gate Kobe
Yeah.
World shows.
Yeah, it just seemed like everyone, like, got into, like, lucha mode because of this match and just started shooting their own angles like you would do on a lucha show. And then maybe it's going to pay off or maybe it won't.
And then in the N1 sort of qualifier match, because unfortunately Timothy Thatcher is having visa issues and is not going to be able to participate in the tournament, Kinya Okada defeated Yoshiki Inamura in 15 minutes and 18 seconds with a Japanese leg roll clutch hold. I thought this was good, but it just never hit that like next gear for me. I don't know.
No, it was also incredibly one-sided as well, because it was basically like Okada got barely any offense, and like I'm trying to think what he even did. Like when I'm thinking back on the match, I can only ever think about like all of the stuff that Inamura did, and really just about the only thing that Okada actually did on offense was like the finish when he rolled up Inamura, more or less.
So, Paul, what do you think's going on? Like, do they really not think that much of Inamura, or are they protecting him
I think
and have other plans, and that's why he's not in the N1?
Yeah, I think it might be that. I've also heard like kind of people say that they didn't want to put him in this tournament because he had just been in the Fire Festival and they didn't want him to go for like 2 tournaments back to back.
Yeah, that will drain you.
Yeah, so like, and after I heard that, I was like, yeah, okay, I can now. At that point, I was like, okay, I can actually see Okada win the match, and then Okada actually won the match. So I think that actually sounds reasonable. Where like he went to the finals of the Fire Festival, and I think it might be the
had a
combination.
damn incredible match. I'll say that.
Yeah, exactly. Like it might be a combination of them wanting to protect him and also not wanting him to like do 2 tournaments like back to back to like say he can save up his body a little.
And then in the Naomichi Marufuji return match, Marufuji, Go, and Sugera defeated Kojima, Masato Tanaka, and Deki Inaba. When Go pinned Inaba with the lariat, most obvious result ever. That won 17:56. I thought it was a pretty good match. No 6-man formula, good. Marufuji looks like Marufuji did before he got injured.
Yeah,
right?
It definitely feels like he rushed back from his injury.
Yeah, but he doesn't look any worse.
No.
I don't know.
But I think he rushed back because he's going on this US trip afterwards, because he didn't want to lose his US bookings.
Right. And they probably pay well, so...
Exactly. Like, he probably is like, yeah. And now I'm feeling like because he rushed back from this injury and because he wants to make that money on that US tour, that we might see some sort of, like, I think he might be... Like, I don't think he's retiring before Muto, but I think maybe, like, this time next year we might see some sort of like Marufuji retirement show or something like that.
Do you think that he is going to pop up in Impact, and that was one of the reasons why he didn't want to go out necessarily compared to just a bunch of indies?
That might be the reason as well.
I don't think he's going to AEW.
No. Because again, it seems to be like the one promotion that literally has no relationship with AEW is Noah for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see him pop up in Impact as well. I mean, but they haven't announced him for anything yet, whereas he has been announced for a ton of stuff on the Indies already.
Marufuji's in that King of the Indies tournament.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you think we have another Dragon Soldier B situation on our hands?
Maybe. I mean, I could see that happen. There's definitely some There's definitely some. That tournament is going to be interesting because of like kind of promotional politics. Because SP Kento is in that tournament too.
Right. Well, I mean, I think those companies are working together so something can be arranged, right?
I mean,
so,
SP Kento definitely isn't going over on Marufuji though. That's not happening. No. I love him, but like, no. Come on.
And so the main event of the show, Hayata defeated Shuji Kondo in 19 minutes and 3 seconds with a headache. Well, I'll say this. I like this well enough, and I will say it was one of the better Hayata title defenses in quite some time. That was all thanks to Kondo, though.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was just yet another Hayata title defense. And
I mean, most of this was Kondo beating up Hayata.
Oh, yeah, no.
But
no, I mean, Kondo was good in this, but it's just like, I'm just so over this title reign.
Yeah, exactly. But hopefully that doesn't match much longer. So everything coming up is the N1 tournament. It will start on Thursday the 11th. First night will be Kazuki Fujita versus Go Shiozaki, Keno versus Dr. Wagner Jr., Misaki Mochizuki versus Hideki Suzuki, Masato Tanaka versus Anthony Green, Takashi Sugera versus Kojima, Kaito Kiyomiya versus Jack Morris, Masakatsu Funaki versus Kinya Okada, filling in there, and Katsuhiko Nakajima versus Masa Kitamiya. And then I'm not going to go through the whole tournament, but just, Paul, let's look at the final night real quick, and then we'll do some last-minute predictions.
Yeah.
Final night, Go Shiozaki versus Hideki Suzuki. This is Block A. Mm-hmm. Keno versus Kazuki Fujita. Masato Tanaka versus Hyo Dr. Wagner Jr. Masaki Mochizuki versus Anthony Green. And then in the B block, Masakatsu Funaki versus Takashi Sugera. Katsuhiko Nakajima versus Kinya Okada. Kaito Kiyomiya versus Satoshi Kojima. And Masa Kitamiya versus Jack Morris. So do you have any last-minute sort of predictions or anything like that now here?
I mean, for me, it's interesting how is Kinya being in a tournament, how is that going to change the booking? Because he's obviously not going to get the same amount of wins, if he even gets any wins, as Thatcher was going to get. What I'm actually wondering about if his one win might actually come here, where he might spoil Nakajima.
Yep, that's very possible. And then and Sugera spoils, I think Sugera beats Funaki here.
Yeah. And because I think the B block comes down to Kaito versus Kojima.
Yes, and I think Kojima's winning, and I think Go's winning Block A, and then Go gets his win back.
Yeah. That's basically my prediction as well. But I was kind of worried when Go picked up that injury, because to me, he's the clear favorite to win it. Because he's just never won it as well. Like
he's never won a global league either.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this feels like the prime moment to give him a big tournament win, if you want to give him one.
I think Go is losing that title match against Keno, and I think, I mean, my ideal situation is Kaito beats Keno on January 1st at the Budokan.
Yes, I think that's just the most logical story to tell.
Go full story from their match the previous year.
Yes, exactly. Like, you just go full circle. You have Kaito again, like, overcome Keno after he knocked him. Like, because he literally got knocked out. Like, it wasn't that he got pinned, he got knocked out. So I think that's just the best story to tell here. What I'm wondering, though, is if we're going to get a Fujita title challenge out of this, because he's facing Keno on the final night. And I think he's spoiling Keno as well.
Yep. It would not shock me. There's like a one or two. Well, there'll be the defense against the winner, but I think there's still one more defense between that and January 1st in the schedule if you just go by the size of the buildings.
Yeah.
Because there's the Ariake, I think, that Keno versus Fujita at Ariake, that makes sort of sense, right? Maybe.
I mean, you're gonna have to put a pretty decent Muta match on that as well.
Yeah. Well, also, Paul, they've brought out the Muta in Osaka on for that September 3rd final show.
Actually, just very quick on Muta. So does the match that he had in Dragon Gate count as one of his 5 final matches, or has he already gone back on the number of final matches he's going to have?
There was already like 24 hours after the initial retirement announcement, he was already floating like 5 or 6, despite saying 5 at the Cyber Fight Festival. So it's an elastic number. And actually, that's an interesting point. Like, what are the chances of Muto at the All Japan Budokan?
I mean, that depends what his relationship with the promotion is right now, because
he worked shows for them like
True.
that would have been the Akiyama thing like in 2017, 2018.
So, I mean, it definitely would make sense for him to be on that show if you really want to make this like as much of the history of the promotion as he can get onto the show, basically.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he doesn't want to do it. That's fine, I guess.
Maybe. I mean,
as long as he's not.
Maybe if he doesn't want to do a
Yuma
match
on the show or something.
I mean, if he doesn't want to do a match, like you could at least do like an appearance where like you just have like him, Kawada, and like Kobashi, like standing in the ring and like waving at the crowd or whatever.
Oh no, Taue?
Oh, Taru, yeah, sorry. Oh, it's almost like he keeps getting forgotten as the pillar. Yeah, I don't know. You can have those like in the ring, and you can like hold up like a picture of Misawa or something. So yeah, and Baba obviously.
So what I was gonna say is, to them then announcing Muda at the final show at Osaka Edion, does that like think they were freaking out about ticket sales?
I could definitely see that. Seems a bit early because that show is still a while away.
It's September 3rd, so it's less than a month.
Yeah, but maybe. I mean, it's definitely weird that it's like. I mean, like we talked about before, where it's like, it's not like the Muto match, like at the Budokan, like why that didn't really help draws, because well, it's not gonna be his, like it's one of his last matches, but it's not his last match at Tokyo even.
So this is being billed as his last appearance as the Great Muda in Osaka.
Yeah, that's a lot of qualifiers.
Yeah.
I mean, I would probably, if I lived in Osaka, and I think that I wouldn't be able to make my way out to the last Muta match ever, I would probably buy a ticket just based off of that. And the fact that it's the N1 finals, obviously, but yeah, I don't know, it's kind of hard to predict if it will help the show draw. Well, actually, is this Edion, like, is this number 1 or number 2 for Edion Arena?
It's number 1. It's number 1.
Okay.
They wouldn't run number 2 for the finals.
Yeah.
They're above that.
Yeah. So
at this point.
Then definitely, like,
definitely
I could see that help drawing.
All right, so that's Pro Wrestling and Noah, and then we will move on to questions that we got off of the Voices of Wrestling Discord in Twitter. So we'll start with the Discord from Velki, I think is how you pronounce it. Paul, you're close to Central Europe.
I was in Prague. I was in Prague recently, but I don't speak Czech, so Velki.
Velki.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. But I like where he starts with this. Why did Yuka jobber Hikari so hard it made her such a geek, and now nobody will buy into her? I think TK should save her. What do you say? Well, I'm glad you asked this, because this is a very controversial thing. And I will say I enjoyed that Yuka Sakazaki versus Hikari Noah match. I enjoy Yuka as the grumpy veteran, because I think she's actually going to end up losing in the semis. And I was not, people are freaking out that, like, she's burying Hikari Noah and that, she was being unprofessional. No, it was just completely her just leaning into the grumpy veteran role. And I'll say this, and to be brutally honest, I think Hikari Noah has the least amount of upside of any of the up girls. Okay, now on to the real question. How do you feel is Noah and All Japan positioned within the wider Japanese wrestling scene? And where do they stand at the start of 2023? If we assume borders and venue limitations open, will Noah sell out their evening Korakuens against Wrestle Kingdom? I'm not asking what they can do because that is too peering much in the crystal ball, but I think prediction of attendances for the New Japan shows, if limitations go away, is an interesting thing to come back and see how wrong right you are. I think Noah will do fine on the Wrestle Kingdom week Korakuens because like everybody does well for the sort of, the January 1st New Year's like period in Japan, right?
Yeah. I think maybe if we look at like the New Year show, like the Budokan that they ran like this year for that, so they had 3,881 fans for that one, and I definitely think they can draw more than that. I think they can definitely exceed that next year, especially if you really have that, like, if you properly build that Keno Kaito match that we kind of think they're going to do there. I think that definitely has a really good chance of drawing a pretty good number.
Well, he's also asking about the Korakuens against Wrestle Kingdom shows, which I think have they even announced 2 nights of Wrestle Kingdom officially?
I don't know if they've announced that yet, but I guess so.
But I think those Korakuens will do fine.
Yeah.
Where All Japan will be, well, I'll tell you, I think where All Japan will be at the start of 2023 will have a lot to do with how the Budokan show goes and how they book coming out of the Budokan, because if it's Kento leading around the voodoo murders, I don't have a very good feeling about that. But if they pivot after Budokan to the Yuma and Naoya and Nomura, then I think they will be, and I think this year's Real World Tag League will be actually quite good. So that would basically depend on how they come out of the Budokan, and if they, pivot to the young talent after Budokan is my opinion on that one.
You know what? Actually, I'm going to take a prediction. So, because for the Noah Korakuens at Wrestle Kingdom, I don't think they will sell out, but I do think they will sell more than 1,000 tickets for Korakuen. For either show.
That's a pretty reasonable prediction, I think.
Because they drew like 400 and 300 something people this year for those, but those were still with restrictions.
Yeah. So from Prince, first asks, who is Jack Morris? And Buddy, nobody knows.
Well, Jack Morris is a 20-year-old wrestler from Dunfermline 5 in Scotland in the United Kingdom. He has a background in football. His in-ring career has been going since 2017, so he has an in-ring experience of 5 years. His nickname is Sublime every time, and he played in the 2nd Scottish Football League for Cowdenbeath, however you pronounce that.
Oh, I did not know he was a soccer player.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And so, but really, now that Okada's in the N1, also notes that they need to change that name, which I agree.
I completely disagree with that take.
Really?
No, because
okay.
I don't think there's a reason to change his name. Like, I've never had any issue distinguishing between the Okadas.
The N1. They need to change the name of the N1.
I thought they had to change Okada's name.
No, I think Prince means the N1 name has to be changed.
Yeah.
Because the N1 came under when Ledette owned it, and Ledette was totally doing the let's copy everything that New Japan is doing type owners, right?
Yeah. I would maybe come up with, like, I don't know if you can revert it to Global League now. It's kind of weird that you called it, like, maybe come up with a new name that is more like Noah specific.
Yeah. Do you think it's a smart choice over Inamura, or just a way to even out the differences in their spots in the cards? Well, we did discuss that, but I think that, they're doing something with Inamura. Whether it's just protecting his physical condition by not putting him in another singles tournament is quite possible. Because, Inamura has obviously gotten more chance to shine, even though he's not as pushed as hard as I think he should be.
I mean, what I will say, we've been banging on about this since we started the show, is like that they should do something with Okada, and they're finally doing something with Okada. So I'm just happy that that's finally happening, even if it was born out of necessity rather than really will on their end. But maybe he just performs so well that they just have to push him coming out of this tournament.
Yeah. That would be the ideal thing. And then also, have you noticed a change in Noah booking as Kendo Kashin is supposedly the main booker, or is it too difficult early to notice it? I think the most likely scenario is that Kendo Kashin's booking the heavies, and then it's Nosawa with the juniors. And what I guess it's a small thing, but Kendo Kashin's sort of mixing up the teamings of the heavyweights in the main event 6-man tags on the spot shows. Before it was a lot more team based under Nosawa.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's definitely mixing up it a lot more. Like, he doesn't really pay that much attention to the stables.
Yeah. And, I think Keno winning might have to do with Muto retiring, maybe. But, I think Kendo Kashin's a little... What people think is that he's more open to the younger talent. And so the N1 will be a good judge of that, right?
Yeah.
I think, we'll know if you get a very different booking styles, then the N1 will be a really good way to know if Kendo Kashin is booking the heavies.
Yeah.
Next up, Rika Tatsumi. Thank you very much for the question, Rika. I loved your match against Suzume. Is NXT Japan back on the table? And who will be your next NXT Japan ace? Well, I don't think so, but never say never with Paul Levesque in charge, and it will be Jake Lee.
I'm definitely somewhat afraid that it is back on the table, because last time it was on the table, there was the rumor that they were just going to buy All Japan and turn it into kind of NXT Japan.
Well, they tried to buy Dragon Gate, and Noah, and
which again, that's the whole reason why Noah is owned by Cyberfight in the first place. But then obviously the All Japan rumors were also very much tied to that Jun Akiyama was the person that wanted to sell to, because he was also supposed to be a coach, and that's obviously off the table because he's no longer involved with All Japan in any way, and B, he's the coach at DDT now. So I think it's still on the table. It's just at this point, which promotion would they even have a relationship with that would allow them to do that? Because again, there's also a lot of people in Japan that are in power positions in Japan, or have influence at the very least, that they no longer have a good relationship with. Suzuki, who they fired. They fired Kendo Kashin. I don't think he wants to have anything to do with WWE anymore. So, and again, to me, the other thing as well is how much is Paul Levesque actually wanting to do big investments right now, because
I think Paul Levesque has plenty on his table right now.
Yes, exactly. He has to
but
revamp
I
the
would say
and
an NXT Japan is slightly more likely than it was before Vince left.
Yeah, it's no longer 0%, but now it's 0.0001%, because to me, just every sign points to them just gearing up for a sale. And if you're gearing up for a sale, you're not starting this would be a very capital intensive investment to be making right now, to start a completely new thing in a different country that you haven't been active in before, create a completely new subsidiary. You have to buy a ring, you have to buy all kinds of set up all kinds of facilities, hire people. That costs a lot of money. That's not something you're doing when you want to sell.
It's also not worth doing until all pandemic restrictions in Japan are lifted, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, absolutely. That doesn't make sense right now. And in theory, if NXT Japan would start, who would be the ace? Jiro.
Well, that's sort of the interesting connection to All Japan, is there's still Tajiri around, right? And he's close to Jiro.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. So we move on to the Twitter questions, and I think this first Twitter question is a great question. It is the question that I think is on everyone's mind in one way or another, from Tanis Saria at TEN410. With the news of Christopher Daniels coming to All Japan, what are the chances we see Kento Miyahara on an episode of Dynamite? Well, it's a lot higher than it was last week, although I think actually you're more likely, I don't think it's impossible by any means, but I think if that happens, you're more likely to see a Yuma Aoyagi or even a Yuma Anzai on Dynamite. Paul?
I still think it's pretty unlikely, just because AEW already has so many relationships in Japan, and it just seems they seem so much more focused on their relationship with New Japan compared to their relationship with DDT, for example. Like, it seems like they really only wanted to get Takeshita out of the DDT relationship. And then otherwise they really want to focus on New Japan because that is just the more prestigious company to have a relationship with. It is more likely now. I still would consider it to be pretty unlikely. Like, the thing that if it was just some random person from AEW, I would consider it to be really unlikely. Now, it is Christopher Daniels, who actually does have a pretty influential position within the company.
He was in the video at the DDT show announcing the relationship between DDT and AEW.
Yeah, so he clearly seems to be like the guy that does these kind of Japan relationships. Like, he really, like, he's an office guy in AEW. So that definitely makes it more likely that there might be something more coming out of it. But yeah, I wouldn't put money on Kento popping up on Dynamite anytime soon.
So the reason why I brought up Yuma, both Yumas, Yuma Aoyagi and Yuma Enzai, is that, you know, Tony Khan's talked about he's willing to work with anyone, like, because people were asking him about even working with WWE, and he like tried to say he was open to it, but he didn't think it would happen. What do you think of them just trying to get their tentacles even just a little bit in every company in Japan so they can poach talent if they see someone?
I mean, could be, because that's very clearly what they're doing with Takeshita right now.
Oh, do you think Takeshita is staying?
I think they're definitely going to try and make a play. I think they're definitely going to try and get him. If they will get him is another question, because people are still pretty loyal in Japan.
But if they poach Takeshita, does everyone else, like, not just DDT, but everyone else close ranks?
Probably. I mean, New Japan is probably...
Except for New Japan.
Yeah, New Japan is probably still going to be fine. I think definitely All Japan is going to be a lot more cautious if that happens.
And of course, does that burn bridges of the cyber fight? I don't know.
I mean, but again, like, I feel like that relationship in the first place felt like a Kenny Omega thing.
Yeah.
Like, it seemed to be very much like led by Kenny Omega, because otherwise there haven't really been that many AEW guys popping up in DDT, and it's really only the only other person that has gone the other way is Takeshita. So to me, I don't think, like, if they can get a performer on his level, I think they might be willing to burn that relationship to get him.
Yeah, and what I would just say is that, well, you can debate about DDT attendances with no Takeshita, but even if they offered it, like Kento Miyahara, like, okay, you can come back to the big shows. No, like, All Japan needs him for every show.
They need to draw him for spot shows. So
yeah,
that's also, again, why I'm like, they're probably, like, again, the same with Yuma, because, again, if we're talking about if they turn Kento heel and then have Yuma as the top face, then they also need Yuma in that position. So then they're not going to be willing to send him either.
I just think, like, they would bring over young guys to, like, sort of give them a little kick of the tire type thing to see. And that's why I was like Yuma Anzai, Yuma Aoyagi. I don't know. I don't know. Hokuto Mori doesn't seem like a American TV wrestler. Who else? Atsuki, maybe?
Ren Ayabe actually is someone.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not, but like, an All Japan guy directly, but like, again.
But he's tall
exactly.
enough. He can face Satnam Singh.
Yeah, he did someone. Actually, you know what? You know who All Japan can send over to? You know who they can send over to AEW? Who can? Maybe if AEW wants to take him as well, they can send Jake.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say AEW should send Satnam Singh to All Japan for some training.
I mean, that's not the worst idea either. He's not the worst tall non-Japanese guy that they've brought in.
No, not at all. So yeah, well, yeah, you can have Jake, which is why I said, like, Jake should be the NXT.
Yeah, just
Japan
make that a talented change, like Santam Singh versus against Jake Lee, and then just swap him.
All right, so next up, question from Andy at Trilly Robinson. If you could do a straight-up 3-for-3 trade between the rosters to improve them from company and wrestler perspective, who would you move and why? Well, I thought about this because the problem here is that All Japan's roster is so, like, not as deep as Noah's. So I came up with this wild idea. Shuji Ishikawa, Hikaru Sato, and Izanagi for Yoshiki Inamura, Yasutaku Yano, and Seki Yoshioka. So you trade two big guys, or one big guy for one big guy, and then I trade out some of the older juniors for younger juniors. I don't know. I try not to be so ridiculous and steal, like, Kaito, Inamura, and,
Yeah, maybe what I would do, like, one person that I would but I would definitely send from Noah to All Japan would be Kinya Okada. Because I think that's actually, like, that's an improvement for All Japan, and it's also an improvement for Kenya. I mean, maybe not anymore, given that he is now in N1 and maybe what comes out of it, but, like, just based off, like, let's just say prior to him being in the N1, I think that's definitely an improvement for him, for his situation. Then to Noah, I would send Takao Omori, because I think that would be, like, because he is kind of a Noah, like, not a Noah original, but he's one of the, like, original Noah guys, basically, I think makes more way of saying it. So I think that would be, like, interesting to him to have, like, one last run there. Then as well, from All Japan to Noah, I would maybe send someone. I mean, the question is as well, is this going to be a permanent thing, or is this just for, like, a quick run and then they come back?
Yeah, that would affect it, I suppose.
Yeah, because, for example, I would maybe, like, send someone like Omori, like Hokuto Omori as well to Noah, to give him, like, because he's never really done much outside of All Japan, so I think just, like, he has never done, like, an excursion or anything like that.
Dragon Gate show.
So just give him, like, a quick run to Noah to get, like, a fresh perspective, I think would really help him. Then as well, sending the other way from Noah to All Japan, I would maybe send someone like actually Seiki Yoshioka actually would be a really interesting one, because I think he could be,
because I don't think they're ever going to push him more than they already have. I just get that feeling. They gave him the Gold Watch title run, and that's it.
I don't think he's really going to do much else. Actually, well, I would maybe send Hideki, but just because I want to see Hideki work in All Japan. And then maybe going the other way from All Japan to Noah, one more guy. Again, that's really the problem, where the All Japan roster just isn't that deep. I would actually, again, if this is just like a quick excursion thingy rather than like a full like switch, I would maybe like send Honda as well for like a quick run.
Yeah, actually, I think he would fit in there well.
So I think like, because like maybe as you said, like sending Nomura the other way, but I kind of want to see those two against each other.
Or even team.
Because teaming actually would be even better. Yeah, that would actually be really cool.
For sure. And then so next question from Ewan Taylor at Slurm316. While attendance restrictions are still an issue for Japanese promotions, what is the benefit of groups like All Japan running the Budokan when they are struggling to get fans into Korakuen Hall? Surely this must be a big financial loss to run such a big building. Well, there's a couple possibilities. First of all, there's probably a discount on the Budokan, even though I don't know what the actual attendance restrictions are. But at the same time, it's like Budokan was a major, like, martial arts thing, and it was martial arts tournament featuring international talent, and it's also a very famous concert hall where there's been a number of like live from Budokan albums, like Bob Dylan and Cheap Trick both have live from Budokan albums. I think the Beatles played there, so they're not getting those type of musical acts in there. So there's obviously going to be a reason to make a deal. Also, it's quite possible that this is a sponsored show, and the sponsors are going to take a role in selling the tickets. So Carbell Ito is shelling up for the Budokan is also a very big possibility.
Yeah. I mean, really, as I summed it up, like, it's really a prestige thing. Like, Budokan, like, I don't think it's really known, like, I don't think people outside of Japan really know how much of a big deal it is to run Budokan. Like, that just is, like, it's like, if you ask, like, up-and-coming Japanese artists what their dream is to perform in Budokan. So it really is just kind of a thing where, like, as a promotion, even if you take a bit of a bath or even if you lose out, like, it's a 50th anniversary show, you can't run that out of Korakuen. Like, that just is not a reasonable thing. Like, even if All Japan is, like, significantly diminished from what it used to be, Like, that would just be humiliating to run your 50th anniversary out
And
of, like...
doing Sumo Hall at the 50th anniversary wouldn't feel
No.
right.
Like, Budokan, that's the event. Like, and you can't run... Like, if All Japan was still, like, decently sized, they might even try to run, like, Tokyo Dome. But, like, they're way too small for that now. So Budokan really is, like, it's a highly prestigious venue that you still, if you put on a good card, you have a decent chance of selling out just based off of the fact that it's your 50th anniversary.
Mm-hmm. I would say that the goal is would you consider 3,000 good or a disappointment because it's the 50th?
I don't really have a good feeling for what All Japan actually can draw. Because again, we know that Noah can draw this, but they've generally drawn better than Noah in Korakuen. But in theory, Noah just has so much more budget than them that they should just easily outdraw them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say...
Well, that's exactly how Noah started out drawing all... Well, the pandemic happened, but it was clear that it was probably going to happen with the cyber fight behind them. Because in 2019, like, All Japan drew about 84,000 people in total that year, and Noah drew about 56,000, and that's including doing 5,000 at Sumo Hall. But the thing was that the All Japan spot shows were considerably outdrawing Noah spot shows. I mean, even as recently as 2019, there were still like 150 people at Noah spot shows, whereas like All Japan would do a small spot show would still be 250, but 300, 400, 500 even at spot shows would be a much more regular occurrence for All Japan than Noah.
Yeah.
And then from Patrick at Shut Up Patrick with a K, is Kento just Sting, but with people turning on him being justified? Well, we discussed this. That makes him Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
You know, Sting's naive. You know, I think it's sort of funny, though, if you consider how long he's been doing that, though.
Yeah, no, I mean... Yeah.
Right? And under normal circumstances, 6 years, because it's been over 6 years now, 6.5 years since he first won the Triple Crown, that almost like if things were different, like a heel turn would be a lot more justifiable. But it's just that like the pandemic happened and the company has been unable to really make another draw is why I'm so nervous about this sort of thing.
Yeah, no, it is definitely concerning, but yeah, I mean, as we talked about, he's just Hulk Hogan. Like, he's not Sting, he's Hulk Hogan. Like, he's also drawing, so like he can't be Sting.
Yes, that's very true. Which is something that it's sort of funny though because everyone seems to be a Sting fan, but he never was really that big of a draw outside of the Starrcade '97.
No, I like Sting,
angle.
but like, and especially now, like it's really interesting to see that he's like him as this just like old man still taking like wild bumps like all the time. It's kind of nuts to see, but like he was never really a big draw. Great performer though, like great performer.
No. Well, I mean, early WCW numbers should tell you all, really, unfortunately, what Sting really was a draw most of his career outside of a couple of moments. Next question from Dylan Fox of the Eastern Lariat at Viva_0. Who would be your picks for having the greatest singles junior and heavyweight title reigns in Noah history? Well, for the heavyweight title, I think it's obviously still, to this day, Kobashi. Yep. I would say Go's reign in 2020, 2021 might be number two, honestly.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that as well, and I was like very quickly settled on the Kobashi reign as well. Second one might actually be more interesting to discuss as well. And I might also...
I'm going to go with Go, because I'm trying to think. There was some bleak years. There was a lot of short reigns, especially in like the early 2010s, and then you get into the Suzuki gun stuff.
I mean, the first Kaito reign actually is an interesting thing. Want to talk about that as well.
Well, I don't think so, because I don't think he was at the level that... Now, I know Dylan does, and he will get angry at me at this one, but I still think, like, I think back to that Keno versus Kaito match at Sumo Hall in, was it November 2019? Like, that...
November, 2nd of November.
That match went 30, 35 minutes, and I thought it just went way too long for, like, Kaito's experience level at that time. It wasn't until he lost the title that I mean, look, I always thought Kaito was a very good worker, and clearly, like, this guy's going to be a future megastar, but he was always like a 3.5, 3.75 wrestler when you sort of expect the GHC, you know, champion to be like a 4-star wrestler at least.
Yeah.
But now I think Kaito's the best worker on the roster. No, so
He's definitely up there. Yeah, it's actually going to be interesting. Like, to me, it's still a Kobashi reign right now, but I'm really curious if this actually goes the way we think it is, with Kaito winning the title from Kano in January, and then if he has a really long reign after that, I think that might have a chance to challenge the Kobashi reign.
Absolutely, for sure. And then for Junior, I would go with Kenta's first reign. He beat Yoshinobu Kanemaru at the Noah Destiny show. There were some really great matches in that reign. There was a great match against Suwa. There was a match against Low Ki in Ring of Honor. And who else did he defend against? Oh, and he lost the title to Sugiura in another really good match. And like, it was a pretty sizable long reign too. Because a lot of the other junior title tended to like bounce around a lot more. So to me, that was probably the best one.
Yeah, see,
certainly better than anything recent.
See, I'm actually going with the just prior reign. Like, I'm going with the man that he beat for the title. I'm actually going with Kanemaru's third reign with the title, just prior to the Kenta reign, because there's a lot of, like, I think it's kind of underrated. There's a lot of amazing stuff in there, because he beats Liger for the title in like an absolute like great match at the Tokyo Dome. Then the match where he loses it to Kenta, that's great. And then there's like a lot of like really good title defenses against like Sugiura and Low Ki in there as well. And that was like, and they're like kind of the same length as well. So like, again, they're both like two fairly lengthy reigns when that was like really like, it was like a really interesting period of stability for the title, as you said, because it's just been bouncing around so much otherwise.
Yeah, because I was looking at the title lineage and it was like, 130, 140 days in between, and then they both had like year-long reigns. And then our final question comes from Boston Tony at Tony McGill 14. Overall thoughts on All Japan booking decisions. Where do we go from here? Well, we sort of talked about this from the bit. I think still at the end of the day, you can make a business case that you had to do Suwama versus Kento at the Budokan. I'm not convinced 100% on that. I think you could have built up Yuma to be in the main event if you had done it properly. And I think going from here, well, I think as soon as that Budokan show is over, you got to pivot to, back to Yuma, back to, hopefully Naoya Nomura is with the company full time. And I think those are your guys that you go with. Also, you can start moving up Honda, and we sort of forget him now, even though I was so high on him. Ashino, I think he should be in the mix, and then I think you can move him up there if afterwards. Because what is Kento going to defend against Ishikawa and Suwama? Well, he's going to be. He's like Kento's running out of challengers, and he's going to be champion again. So it's going to be very important to like start moving that young talent up, and that's really going to be, to me, their top priority after Budokan. And they've got like a rookie debuting and the Sato brothers returning, so I think it's hopefully that's what they do, because it gives them a really good opening. Start fresh after Budokan.
Yeah, what I'm actually wondering about now is maybe if the return of Nomura has actually changed their booking plans, because maybe they actually had the plan to have Yuma in the main event here, but then because Yuma was doing the stuff with Nomura, that maybe that changed their plans.
Yeah, that's very possible. Because I think, actually, we didn't discuss this. I think Nomura is going to the finals against Kento in the road.
Yeah. That to me also seems to be pretty, and like they're going to do like Nomura versus Nomura in the semifinals.
Oh, you think Tokuya is beating Jake, eh?
I could definitely see that happening.
I had it as Jake versus Nomura.
Yeah, I could see that happening as well, but I just really want to see Nomura versus Nomura. Because did they have a match since, because they had a match like years. Yeah, it was an opening match on a Big Japan Sumo Hall, on a Big Japan Sumo Hall show.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that would be an incredible match if they go with it.
And I think because Jake
So,
right now
yeah.
doesn't feel important at all, so I think it's fine if he loses to Tokuya.
Well, yeah, but I think Yuma and Jake are going to the finals or either winning the Real World Tag League.
Yeah, so again, you don't need to have Jake like in the semifinals here, even if he's like doing a tag run afterwards.
That's true too. Yeah. And I guess since we're on the topic, do you think Yuji Nagata might be challenging for the tag titles at Budokan with someone?
I could see that happening, although
Because I think he's beaten Nishino.
I could see that happening, but at the same time, I'm also kind of thinking if we could see Taru and Kono challenge for the belts. If they do
God.
Black Tiger versus Tiger Mask and they're doing Sumama versus Kento, then the tag title match would be like the only one without Voodoo Murderers involvement. So
Yeah.
I could see that happening
That's
too.
also. Yep. Anyway, so yeah, there's a lot that could happen in All Japan, but I hope they're careful and well thought out with what they do about it. All right, Paul, that's all the questions. Do you have any final thoughts or anything at all?
No, nothing right now. I'm just really looking forward now that we get into the N1. I'm really looking forward to that tournament. I think it's a really good roster.
Let's be honest, it could be better than
It
the
could
G1.
actually be better than the G1. It's a really good roster, and if they deliver, I think that could be really amazing. And I mean, they haven't announced it yet, but I'm still I'm holding out hope that maybe we'll get maybe like cheering for the finals or something. So maybe at some point people have to be allowed to cheer again in Japan. I don't know. Hopefully sometime in the next 4 years.
I thought I read something, and this is a couple weeks ago, but like the peak of this latest wave is supposed to like end in the middle of August or so. So maybe in September things will be a little better. Oh, and this is what we should say. Like a lot of people are getting COVID right now. So fingers crossed that nobody's big shows get fucked.
Yeah,
over.
or the tournament as well, because New Japan just had a close call there with Jay White.
Yep. So yeah, that could still rear its ugly head, unfortunately. All right, so that's it for this week, this episode. We'll be back talking about more Royal Road and into the first few nights of the N1. So for Paul Vosh, I'm Gerard Detroya, and we'll see you in about 2 weeks.